Transforming Relationships with Anna and Greg and Holy Spirit.
Yeah,
Here on
yeah.
another Tuesday night where
Mm-hmm.
we're doing part two.
Part 3.
Is this really
No,
part
it
three?
really is part 3. And normally I didn't like to do part 3s of anything, but this section is, the last 3 paragraphs is so powerful and potent that I really wanted to do it.
So
Part 3.
It's one of those things that it's like has so many paragraphs, so much depth to it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how a lot of the when I was going through the teacher's manual, there's no way you could do it within. You have to wait for it.
Oh, I see. Gotcha. Okay. We're doing something a little different here with the cameras, so forgive us while we figure it out. We're waiting for, there we are. Yay. Oh, okay. Wonderful. Now we can see your comments easily. I don't have to reach across the table to adjust the camera. Wonderful. Oh, I love it when we're getting more technologically advanced.
And we know that we're in the frame. That's wonderful.
And we know we're in the
Good
frame,
job.
and we're using better quality cameras. So, yay. All right. So where we're at today, this is part 3 of what level of responsibility does our parents really have in our self-image? So great question. And this is part 3. And this section has just really rocked mine and Greg's world in the last 2-3 weeks. Really has been like a big shift in our self-image. So this is a section that really talks about, where does your self-image come from? Does it come from your parents, or is it coming from you creating yourself in your own image? And so it's a really deep section. The title of it is The Essential Goal of Therapy. And this section was edited out of the blue covered edition, which is the Foundation for Inner Peace version. And I'm sure that they edited it out because it had so many references to psychology. And so they thought this was only for Helen and Bill, and so they edited it out. But for Greg and I, it has been really powerful in terms of taking more responsibility for our own self-image and forgiving our parents for their misperceptions of our worth.
Yes.
Okay, now, what could be more valuable and useful and liberating than the course of, in this section, in part 1 of this section, it said that if you forgave your parents their misperceptions of your worth, then their misperceptions of your worth could not affect you at all. Wow. All right, so that's what we're going for here. We're going for, I am responsible for whatever kind of self-image, low self-image, poor self-image, self-doubt that I have, and I forgive my parents for their misperceptions of my worth. They are not the ones who establish my reality. Our Creator is the one who establishes our reality. It's not up to my parents to establish my self-concept. It's not even up to me. That comes from our Creator. And so this section has been very powerful in accepting our worth as established by our Creator, instead of continuing to suffer from self-doubt, low self-esteem, insecurity, and blaming it on our parents.
Right, which we all like to do.
Which we all love to do. It's so convenient, but it does not cure that sense of self-doubt and insecurity that we have suffered from for so long.
And then, as you were saying, this so deeply touched both of us. Just today with my brother, I was having a conversation about parents. from one who has passed away to one who's still here with us.
Your father.
Yeah, and so, and the same thing.
Yeah, with my
being
father.
true in your story.
Just very recently.
Our stories, Anna and my stories, are very similar. You know, we both have mothers that have
very spiritual,
and they both passed away within
a month.
A month of each other. And we have very similar fathers. And just like you and just like everybody, we definitely struggle with what the Course is talking about right here. So if this was just written to Helen and Bill, well, wow, I'm sorry, but this deeply touched me and Anna. I mean, we've had some, what do you call it, spiritual crisis, and we turned it over to Holy Spirit like you're supposed to do. And for many of us, we think, well, that doesn't mean anything. So what? I gave it to God. Oh, I gave it to God. Like that's a cop-out. Well, it's not a cop-out. It's what we're supposed to do. And then coincidentally, we get the exact answer.
In this section,
In
through
this section,
random
what
number
we're
generator.
going through right now in our lives. Right now,
Yes.
directly in our lives.
Yes, it says in this section, it says your parents' perception of you may well have been distorted, and that's the case for most of us, and most of us have suffered because of the misperceptions of our parents, their misperceptions of our worth and our value, and so in this section really speaks to that and how to heal that misperceptions of our own worth by recognizing our own responsibility in our own self-image that we have adopted from them, and how to allow our self-image to be corrected by forgiving them for their misperceptions of our worth. What a radical concept. The way to heal your sense of self-doubt or insecurity or low self-esteem is to forgive your parents for their misperceptions of your worth, and then turn to what your Creator has established as your worth. What has your Creator established to be your reality? We've adopted a self-image from our parents' misperceptions, and we have suffered for that. But our parents are not our creators. They did not establish our worth or our value or our reality.
Right.
And so in this section, it's going to really speak to that.
And
So-
I'm remembering, it was talking about how come just making reasonable sense out of our relationships with our parents. What are those relationships that you're struggling in like this? But how come your parents can have like an opinion about some country or some subject, some political view or whatever, and you can just let it roll off your shoulders?
Don't adopt it.
You don't care. It doesn't, it's like, and you fully know they think that way. You fully don't agree with them on whatever the subject is.
You don't adopt their beliefs and attitudes.
But you don't get all worked up and upset and like, and that upset, that grievance, that anger, that bitterness, that, you know what I'm talking about, comes up. And how come you can't let that go, just like any of the other opinions that they had wrong were?
Indeed,
what makes this one so special?
What Greg is saying is that earlier in this section, it says let's talk about your parents. Many of your parents' attitudes and beliefs, you have rejected after becoming an adult.
Right.
You didn't take their political beliefs and attitudes, or you didn't take their attitudes of sex and relationships. So many of their attitudes and beliefs of our parents we've rejected. So because we thought that was okay to do. And it says, but why is it that when it came to your parents' misperceptions of your worth, you fully adopted those? When obviously you were able to and willing to reject most of their attitudes and beliefs about other things in life. But why is it that you didn't reject their misperceptions of your worth? So, question, something to think about. In other words, your misperceptions of your worth, your attitudes and beliefs that you adopted from your parents, you selected. You could have just as well rejected their misperceptions of your worth like you rejected their other attitudes and beliefs, but you didn't. And then it asks us to ask the question, so what's your problem that you chose to adopt and keep that set of their beliefs and attitudes about your misperceptions? And if their perception of your worth was a misperception, then why have you accorded their misperception of your worth so much power over you? So these are the questions that the author was asking us earlier in the earlier paragraphs in this section. Something to think about.
Yes.
Which proves that whatever misperceptions of our own worth that we have is something that we chose, that we had an opportunity to reject it like we did the rest of their their attitudes and beliefs, but that we chose it, we adopted it. So we're not a victim of our parents' misperceptions of our worth. We actually could have rejected it, but we didn't. So we're responsible for any misperceptions of our worth and value that we have. And now we need to forgive them for their misperceptions of our worth, and then turn to our author, our creator, who did establish our worth and value, to find out what that is, so that we can stop suffering from low self-esteem and insecurity. Which another way of saying low self-esteem and insecurity, it goes on to talk about the belief that you can be hurt. It says, what was it? Yes, anyway, we'll find it. But you thinking that you are an image of your own making leads to your belief that, I see it. It is essential that you know the truth about your worth and value, but you cannot know your worth and value and your truth while you choose to interpret yourself as vulnerable enough to be hurt. Okay. So.
I'm just looking for my glasses. I noticed them on your head. I'm just putting in.
Oh, good. Okay.
And hi, Mary.
Hi, Mary. Good to see you, dear. Good to see you. And if you need your glasses, I'll switch you out.
That's okay.
Here, let's switch.
Let's switch. And those are more.
Yes.
I think these more identify as a
masculine. Sure.
And those more identify as a female.
Sure.
But I don't.
I'm using it as a headband. Anyway, I don't. Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Well, I can't even read this.
Oh, I see. Gotcha.
I squint my eyes. I can make out part of it. If I put these on, I can see.
Okay, great.
And
Perfect.
what you're reading.
Oh my God.
But yours is it's in what I call baby font. Big font for babies. that
or
need
old people.
Old people.
Old people. Babies have good eyesight. All right. So anyway, that is a recap of part 1 and part 2, and also the preceding paragraphs of this section. We're going to start in paragraph 11. Now remember, if you are in the blue covered edition, this section is not in your book. This section is only in the versions of the original edition, which is either the purple covered edition or the book that has a black cover with a string of white pearls. And there's a few other versions of the original dictation. So So,
and not that we're telling you what to do, of course, but we have been encouraging people to get the purple book, the annotated. You can get it easily on your Amazon Kindle app. But if you want a hard copy of it, it's the purple edition, and it's really helpful to follow along. I notice when I'm in the blue book, and Anna and I down at the Miracle Center have, if she is reading now that, and I'm reading, trying to follow along in the blue book, just to see that, I like to see the differences a lot. A lot of times, it's not unusual at all for there to be 2 paragraphs here gone or whatever. And if I'm a visual person. I've learned a lot with you that if I'm reading the words as they're being read, you know, if I'm able to do that, like you're able to sit and to follow along in a book and to read the words, the power of the lesson comes through so much more, and our memory of it lasts longer. And that's not my opinion, you know, that's college teachings, that the more you bring in the information visually, hearing, the more ways that you take it in of your senses, the longer that the memory will retain that information. And we're already so prone to forget stuff quickly.
We're already so defended.
Because we're always distracted with a million things going on in the world. Our brain is always on to the next thing it's on to.
Highly distractible.
Highly distractible, and so it's hard to remember and retain things longer. And I'm just encouraging you that, because I know from experience that Anna would always say, well, open up the book and follow along with me as we read, even if she was just reading. And it really, as they say, sinks in, soaks in so much stronger and better.
Yeah, and really learning A Course in Miracles has everything to do with remembering what it's saying. You can't apply it if you don't remember it. You can't use it. And so the connection between memory and learning is very close. Very close.
These dogs, like, you can sit in here all afternoon. And that doesn't happen. That's not happening.
Yeah, where they both go to the water bowl together at the same time. Okay, so that is the. Oh, that reminds me. Do we want some music?
Yeah, I would love some. There's the speaker right there.
You don't want to listen to the lovely sounds of dogs slurping?
The dogs slurping, lapping up water like they haven't drank
in days.
And this is the exact moment that we need to have this big drink of our lifetime. Did you finally get it? Did you drink yourself to death?
Yes.
Look at you.
What's that?
Jump up here and sit right. Come here. I want to show you something. Come here.
Come up here.
I was hoping I could show you how big the little baby that we showed you we got growing here is.
But she's too big to pick up.
She's too big to pick up, and she's a little shy.
She's very shy.
Like a big shy bear.
But she does want all the attention all the time.
Yeah.
All right, so we are starting in paragraph 11. The name of this section is called The Essential Goal of Therapy, and it is in the original dictation books, but not in the blue covered edition. So,
all right.
Paragraph 11. The essential goal of therapy is the same goal as of knowledge, which means no one can survive independently as long as they are willing to see themselves through the eyes of others. So you'll never experience independence as long as you are willing to see yourself through the eyes of others. So you'll never experience your own worth, your own value, your own knowledge, while you're always looking at yourself through the eyes of others. How do I look to them? Do I look okay? What's their impression of me?
Am I doing good enough?
Am I doing good enough? How do people see me? How do people, let me check myself in the mirror.
What's my value?
Yes, according to how other people see me.
Which is funny because you and I were created by God.
Right.
And that I would look over at that which was created by God to see what I am.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Why are we? Why would we? Why have we been doing that?
Yes.
We look across at our equal creation. We're both created equally by God. And rather than looking to the most obvious,
the source, our source,
to God,
our
of
author,
who I am, how am I doing? What do you think? Oh, you think I'm doing great?
Oh,
wow.
Okay, great.
Oh, okay.
Right. So instead of looking to our author for our truth, our worth, our value, our identity, we're asking someone else who God created equal to us. What do you think of me? Do you like me? Am I good enough? Am I good enough? Am I good enough?
Have I offended you?
Am I good enough? Am I okay? Right. Exactly. And so you'll never experience your own worth and value as long as you are willing to see yourself through the eyes of others. And I just like, oh God, that's so important. That's so important. He says, as long as you are willing to see yourself through the eyes of others instead of the eyes of your author, this will always put you in a position where you have to see yourself in different lights. Yeah, for every single person whose eyes you're looking at, you're judging yourself through, that's how many different lights you're going to be seeing yourself in. You know, for every single person you talk to, you're going to now be changing up how you see yourself.
Yep.
So that you'll never have a stable
certainty.
You'll never have certainty.
One day you're the greatest kid in town, and the next day you're the biggest embarrassment.
Exactly.
And it constantly shifts. Rather than, wouldn't it be wonderful to not have different lights?
Yes.
Different gods.
Wouldn't that be great?
As supreme, and just go to the one supreme light, and not have this, as you say,
uncertainty.
Today I'm a failure.
Yeah.
Today, finally, after all these long stretches of failure days, I'm like walking on water.
All according to how the person I'm with sees me.
Right.
You know.
It's the other aspect of creation.
That's
like me.
That's a roller coaster. So literally, your identity is going to go to the heights of glory, and one day when you're with this person who thinks you're awesome, and the next day your identity is going to, like you said, fall off a cliff, and you're going to be depressed because you saw yourself through the eyes of someone who doesn't like you, because you remind them of somebody from their past that they haven't forgiven. You know, if you're meeting with somebody, it's so funny, who doesn't like you, it's not because you're not likable. It's not because there's something wrong with you. It's because you remind them of somebody from their past who did not perceive their value, somebody from their past that misperceived them, that they haven't forgiven. That's why they don't like you, especially if you guys don't even know each other. It's like if you meet with somebody and you don't really know each other, but you can tell they don't like you, you can know for sure it's not because you're unlikable or there's something wrong with you. It's because you remind them, you're a shadow figure to them. You remind them of somebody from their past that they haven't forgiven. But you know, are you going to base your identity and your value on someone's perception who doesn't even really know you? But that's what we do all the time. We do that all the time. You know, we allow our mood to soar to the heights when looking at ourselves through the eyes of someone who thinks we're great, and then our worth and value falls off a cliff when we're perceiving ourselves through the eyes of somebody who doesn't see us correctly. And so our worth and value goes up and down and up and down and up and down like on a roller coaster. And the next thing you know, you feel sick to your stomach. And you have no certainty about yourself, right? And so, like what you were saying, wouldn't it be great to have certainty about your worth and your value? Wouldn't it be great to have a sense of self that is stable, that is certain, that doesn't shift and change according to every changing circumstance? Wouldn't that be wonderful to have a sense of worth and value that is stable and consistent? That'd be great.
Yes. And hi, Bridget.
Yeah.
And hi, Mighty Companions. And Mr. Cow, I'm not sure how your question applies to what
Yes, Mr. Cow may be a bot.
Yeah, because that doesn't apply to what we're talking about.
Yes.
But we love questions, and if you have questions that chime into
Yes.
what we're
actually
reading
talking
and
about.
actually talking about.
I meant to tell you, since going to YouTube, I've noticed that there's lots of bots that watch, and bots and trolls. Bots and trolls, you know. They need to make a movie about bots and trolls.
Yeah, instead of trolls, like just the movie Trolls, just put the whole thing up there. And you can have the same kind of troll, those cute little characters. I love that movie.
Yeah.
Cartoon movie.
But the trolls on the movie are nice. The bots and trolls that I've noticed are not nice. They say things that, you know, that are that if you're estimating your worth and value through the eyes of the bots and the trolls, then you're gonna be depressed by then you're gonna be depressed by the end of your talk on truth.
Right. It's funny you said that, because when he put on there about the babies and stuff, how are babies made, and of course we're not talking anything about that, but I immediately, as you're talking, I was like, this is actually a demonstration of what we're talking about.
Yes, exactly.
Because all of the opinions of anything outside of us, the creation outside of us, our brothers and sisters, our equals, all of the opinions and distractions, by the way, that they're doing is just that, a distraction.
Absolutely.
Because it's trying to take us away. That opinion is trying to, it's like waving a little leaf over here going, come over here, or some candy. Right. Come over here, I'll give you an opinion of your worth and value. I will give you an opinion of your worth and value. It's a distraction, a temptation, whether it's good or bad. Doesn't matter if it comes off as being disrespectful or bad or something like that, or if it's great. Why should I be taking my opinion on you, even if it's wonderful and great?
Yeah, exactly.
It's still distracting me from only the one opinion that counts, the one that brought me forth, the one that said, let there be light. And so every time, and what do we do? In reality, we spend all of our time, you know, looking at what everybody else is talking about.
And in this digital age, not only are we seeing ourselves through the eyes of other humans, but now we're seeing ourselves through the eyes of things that aren't even real, like bots, like trolls, like, you know, like AI, you know, things that aren't even real. And so how insane is that?
Yeah, less alone.
A human.
Equal parts of creation.
Right.
What has no business telling me my worth.
Exactly.
You were created just like I were.
Exactly.
Mr. or Mrs. or girl or boy, whoever you are. You were created just like I was. But who are you to tell me, who you didn't create,
what I am,
what my value is,
and
what I am.
It goes on to say that for us to esteem our worth and value through the eyes of another is to assume to assume the power to establish our own identity and our own worth. And in this section, in the next paragraph, it goes on to talk about that. That's very narcissistic.
I saw that.
Yeah, he says that's
Right.
that's a peculiar kind of arrogance to think that you, the created, can establish your worth, your value, and your identity when you didn't create yourself. Well, that's a peculiar kind of arrogance whose narcissistic component is perfectly obvious.
And
You know.
the same would be true as a particular kind of arrogance that I didn't make you.
Mm-hmm.
Look, did I bring you in to
No.
breathe the breath of life
No,
into you?
you didn't.
Give you existence?
No.
Was it me that did this?
Right, but then you're gonna
But
take
then
on
I'm gonna take on
the judgment
the title here, if I might,
through judgment.
to establish
Yeah.
who I didn't create were.
Through your
that's
eyes.
a particular
The-
kind of
Arrogance, absolutely.
And as it says, but whoa, you over there that's trying to get out of the pen and act like you didn't do nothing. Even yourself, not, okay, so I'm not judging other people's value and worth, but I sure do have an opinion of myself. But
right.
I didn't make myself, I didn't speak myself into being, let there be light, and then
Right.
here appeared great. But, and that's,
Yes.
I love how it phrased different ways.
Exactly. In other words, if we side with image makers, and if
Right.
we side with people who are making up images of us, then it says we are merely being idolatrous.
Right.
You know, if I'm going to worship what you think of me, you who did not create me, then I am being idolatrous to a false image, to an idol.
Right.
If I'm going to worship an image that you have of me, and you're not my creator, I'm merely being idolatrous.
And you know you're worshiping that image if it's swaying you from neutral.
Yes.
If it's
From equal.
Yeah, from equal. You know, that their opinion of me is making me higher than them.
Or lower.
You should be recognizing that is a trick.
That's
It
an
sure
idol.
is tempting. Boy, it feels so good to be elevated.
Oh, so
Woo!
great. So great. Such a wonderful temporary pleasure that really ends up being a pain.
Yeah.
Because anybody who elevates you, just give it a minute and they're gonna be pulling you right off that pedestal in no time.
Yeah.
You know, it goes from exalting you to crucifying you, and that's the cost of not being equal. So if you let somebody make you not equal, whether it's above or below them, then get ready for some pain.
And see, all of this is to remind us we're the prodigal children. We're the ones that need to come back home. We're the ones that need to get it right. We're the ones that need to stop and listen and learn how to get, what's the roadmap back home. And one of the roadmaps back home is this thing done in heaven,
In reality,
which is equality, equalness, the sameness, to be made in the same likeness, the same image. And what the world that we made, there's no likeness.
no equality.
Because there's always this person's, what's their status? As soon as you are introduced to somebody, what do you do for a living? What are you about? How smart are you? How stupid are you? Blah, 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 blah. Who are you married to? How many times have you been married? And we just keep filtering it down until we think we made this image now we have of this
That's
person that we didn't make.
Exactly. And so if you continue to see yourself through the eyes of others, then you are merely worshiping false idols, and then assuming that establishes your worth and value. So it says, so as long as you are willing to see yourself through the eyes of others, meaning your worth and value, this will always put you in a position where you have to see yourself in different lights all the time. no certainty of worth and value. Parents do not make the self-image of their children. So my parents did not make my self-image, even though my parents may perceive images which my parents do make. However, as we have already said, you are not an image that is made. You are not an image because, and if you side with image makers, you are merely being idolatrous. So, in other words, like he says in paragraph 12, you have no justification whatever for perpetuating any image of yourself at all. Whether it's a good image or a bad image, you have no justification whatsoever for perpetuating any image of yourself. You know why? You are not an image. You are not an image that changes, an image that can be seen from different perspectives all the time. You are not an image that can change. Okay? You are not an image at all. And whatever is true of you is wholly kind. So whatever you are, what's not true about you is you are not an image. You are not an image of their making. You're not an image of your making. But whatever is true of you is wholly kind.
Wholly kind.
Wholly kind. And it is essential that you know that whatever is true about you is completely kind, loving. It's essential that you know this about yourself. But you cannot know this truth about yourself as wholly and completely kind while you choose to interpret yourself as vulnerable enough to be hurt. You'll never know the truth about your reality. You'll never know your truth as wholly kind and loving as long as you choose to interpret yourself as vulnerable enough to be hurt. Woo! So the idea that I'm vulnerable enough to be hurt is just an interpretation.
Yeah.
That's my self-image. That's the image that I've made of myself. Okay, that's my self-image. I'm vulnerable enough to be hurt.
That's my truth.
That's my image that I made up. Now that's not my truth.
Well, it's my truth as I see it.
Right, which means it's my interpretation.
Right.
So there's your truth that was established by your creator. And it's that you are completely kind and loving and lovable. And then the self-image that you have made of yourself is that you are vulnerable enough to be hurt. That's the self-image. And as long as I continue to see myself as the self-image I made of myself and the self-image other people made of me, then I'll never know my truth, which is that I am only loving and lovable and wholly kind. And so I love hearing that my perception of myself as vulnerable enough to be hurt is just an image. It's a self-image that I made. It's just an interpretation of myself that I made up. It's just a self-image, which means that the truth of my being, according to A Course in Miracles, is that as I was created by God, I can't be hurt. I'm not vulnerable. I can't be hurt. I'm not vulnerable. I can't be changed. I can't be hurt. I can't be killed. And I can't be changed from what people think of me. I can't be changed from what I think of myself. That's what A Course in Miracles is telling us about our true identity and our true value, our true self.
And we would argue because we would rather go with truth being our perception,
interpretation,
what we see, which develops our interpretation, then go over to what is true, the truth
about ourselves.
And that's the conflict that we are and have been wrestling in, is this conflict of who's right, Creator God
or us
creation. That's the conflict going on, is who's right and who's wrong. And God Creator is not at war with us about the subject
Of us.
of us.
Our
God's
identity.
not in conflict. God's not in strife. God's not stressed out.
He's not worried.
Hoping, boy, I hope our side wins.
Mm-hmm.
There is no side but the side of truth.
Mm-hmm.
We're just in our own imaginary land of
Mm-hmm.
this imaginary dream that, as the Course puts it, quite rightly, is it can only be but a dream.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because dreams aren't real. When you tell them the next day how these pigs were flying over the house, you know, everybody listening to the dream were going, well, that's nice, but we all know reality.
Yeah. Exactly.
And our reality is, thank God that my worth isn't dependent on me, on what I think of me, or what the million other people around me think of me. Thank God.
Absolutely.
That is really good news.
Absolutely. The Course in Miracles says that we make up an image for ourselves, and then we make up an image for everybody else. And that's what they're doing, you know, with us. They're making up an image. They're making up an image of themselves, and then they're making up an image for everybody they meet, thinking that they are interacting with who that person really is.
Right.
And they are not interacting with who that person really is. When somebody is interacting with you, they are interacting with their image of you that they have formed in their mind, and that they are worshiping as if it's true. And not having any idea that they have no idea who you are.
Right.
You know?
That you're the child of God.
Exactly.
You're the child of Creator.
That's right. That you are whom God created, not what they think of you.
And in all fairness, you, just like they, don't have any idea who you are.
That's exactly right. And
we're both equally in the same boat.
And you know that other people do not know who you are when their opinion of you is anything besides loving and lovable.
Or kind.
Yeah, or kind.
You know.
Holy kind.
Holy kind.
And unless your perception of yourself is holy loving and lovable and holy kind, then you have no idea who you are. You're just worshiping an idol, as a self-image that you made up. You know, because God, the question in this section is telling us that God, our author, our creator, is the one who established our identity, our truth. Right. And anything that doesn't agree with that is just an idol, is just a made up self-image that has no existence in reality, that we're just worshiping it because we want to be God. We want to be God. I created you.
And I know what your value
and
is.
I know what your identity and value
is. Get on my
is.
scale. Let me weigh your value.
Exactly. Exactly. The Course in Miracles tells us that every time we're judging somebody, it's us wanting to kick God off the throne of creation and put ourselves up on God's throne and go, I'm the author of reality and I've created you, and so my interpretation of your worth and value is correct, is real.
And look at all of our measuring, our scales of justice, 2 Libras, by the way. Our scales of justice that we've created in this world is we go there quickly to measure their value in the world that we've made. Are you for Biden or for Trump? Are you Republican or Democrat? What do you think about Russia, or do you take Ukraine? And boy, you're getting ready to be measured out in value. And that scale can move a lot. And it could go way up and go, oh, you
believe like me?
You like me. You like the same music.
You're right.
And then you like this and like that. And then next week, you
disagree with me?
Ooh, and that was it was one of my top things that I don't move with, you know. And so and so it's always going like this. And isn't it nice that God has one value of us.
That does not change.
One value of us.
That does not change. And it's wholly loving and wholly lovable and wholly
not
kind.
Not gonna wake up in the morning and ask you a question, and because you answered it a certain way, it went. That would be a bad relationship with God, just like we have bad relationships with each other. But anyway.
All right.
Let's go on.
Okay. So it says, it is essential that you know this about you, that your truth, whatever is true about you, is wholly kind and loving and lovable. It is essential that you know this about yourself, but you cannot know this about yourself while you choose to interpret yourself as vulnerable enough to be hurt. Now, you choosing to interpret yourself as vulnerable enough to be hurt is a peculiar kind of arrogance. A peculiar kind of arrogance whose narcissistic component is perfectly obvious. Now, what that means is the arrogance lies in believing that you have the power to endow someone with a strength they don't have.
To hurt you.
To make you over in their image. In this case, the strength to, quote, make you over. The narcissism lies in your obsession with your image, with how you appear. And the arrogance lies in believing that you have the power to endow someone with a strength they do not have, to make you up in their own image. Okay, that's the arrogance. I believe that I have the power to endow somebody with the strength they don't have, which is to make me over in their own image, how they want to see me. That is a peculiar kind of arrogance, and the narcissism is in our obsession with our image. Anybody experience any of that?
Of course.
Anybody experience any of that?
That's why we get so bent out of shape.
Exactly.
All the time.
And that's why that's because we choose to interpret ourselves as vulnerable enough to be hurt. Because we think that we are an image of our own making, or we think that we're an image of their making. That our identity is established by them, like our parents or other people. Right. You know? And that is arrogant, and then being obsessed with how other people see us is, narcissistic. How do you see me? Oh, how do they see me? How do you think they saw me? I wonder how I look to them. Anyway.
Because a narcissist is about self.
Yes,
They're always thinking about themselves.
It's you being obsessed with your own image. The image that you're making of yourself, or the way that other people see you. You know, being obsessed with how you look through the eyes of others. That's narcissism. And then arrogance is endowing people or myself with a strength they don't have, which is the power to make me over in their own image. Right. So if they don't like me, I guess there's something wrong with me. That's arrogant. It's you endowing them with a power and a strength they don't have. They don't have the power and the strength to turn you into somebody that's unlovable just because they don't see you as lovable that day.
Right. It's just handing the honor of creation over to one of creation.
Exactly.
And then being mad at it. Like that.
And then blaming it on them.
That's how we think it is with God.
Yes.
That God, our Creator, thinks this of me. And because we can't get God to line up with us, then we endow that power then to somebody who will line up with that. Yeah. That I'm not good enough, or I'm great, or whatever.
I'm better or less than.
That makes me unequal. Once I've been made unequal, doesn't matter how it's happening. You know, I'm worshiping a false image that I made, that I'm
Yes.
making myself.
Which of course calls an idol. Worshipping an image, a false image, whether it's yours or theirs, is you worshiping an idol.
And you know that you're not supposed to have any, as one of the 10 Commandments, not to worship any false idol images. Now we know what an image is. It's
Now we know what an idol is.
It's something that we've accepted the opinion of our value, good or bad, not equal,
Right.
that somebody else has put on us.
Yes.
And we've accepted that, so that's the worshiping.
Yes.
Is because, and we know we've accepted it because we've reacted
Yes.
either in sadness or in, oh, how great am I?
Grandiosity. Exactly. Grandiosity. You know that you're worshiping an idol, which is somebody else's image of you, when you choose to interpret yourself as vulnerable enough to be hurt. You know, it's like, oh, that hurt. Like, oh, they didn't, like, why weren't they smiling at me today? Ooh, that hurts.
Why don't they want the best for me?
Yeah. Why are they angry with me today? Ooh, that hurts. That's us interpreting ourselves as vulnerable enough to be hurt. That's because we are worshiping their image of us, how we look through their eyes. Okay. And that's a peculiar kind of arrogance and narcissism. And that's obvious.
Moving along.
Moving right along. It says, you choosing to interpret yourself as vulnerable enough to be hurt, that endows them, the perceiver of you, with sufficient unreal strength to make you over. And then it acknowledges their miscreation. Okay? So in other words, the perceiver here is the other person. And specifically, we've been talking about your parents. So the perceiver here is another person or your parents. And to acknowledge the other person's misperception of you is to accept the truth of their misperception of you by giving their misperception of you the weight that only the truth should have. So I'm giving their misperceptions of my worth, I'm giving their image of me, which is totally false, the weight that only the truth should have. Right? That's me worshiping an idol, a false idol. Right? There are times when this strange lack of real courtesy appears to be a form of humility. Actually, it is never more than simple spite. So in other words, giving somebody else the power to establish your reality and your identity as they see fit, that may look like humility. You may think that's humility, but it's really spite. It's really mean. That's you worshiping an idol falsely. Your parents probably did misperceive you in many ways. That's very generous. That's very generous. When it says probably.
And this is funny because here we are, we're 13 paragraphs deep in here. And this is where it really started hitting home for Anna and I. We were like talking about the next day. It was talking specifically about what we prayed about.
Exactly. And so your parents probably did misperceive you in many ways. Probably, okay? We could just say your parents did misperceive you in many ways. And we heard in the first few paragraphs that their misperceptions of us were their misperceptions of our worth. That we didn't have to adopt. We could have just rejected their misperceptions of our worth, like we rejected many of their other attitudes and beliefs, right? But our parents probably did misperceive us in many ways, but our parents' ability to perceive may have been quite warped. Maybe. That's so generous.
Seeing that they didn't create you or
Right, exactly.
but they sure didn't have any problem taking on the role of determining your value of worth.
That's right. They didn't know the truth about themselves, but they sure were judging your worth, misperceiving your worth, judging your worth, and judging it wrongly. Your parents probably did misperceive you in many ways, but your parents' ability to perceive may have been quite warped. Exactly.
So of course they're going to misperceive you.
Of course they're going to misperceive your worth. They didn't know their own worth, so their own ability to perceive was warped. Of course they're going to misperceive your worth. He says, but their ability to perceive may have been quite warped, which means, and their misperception stood in the way of their own knowledge. That's right. Their misperceptions stood in the way of their own knowledge. But there is no reason why their misperceptions of your worth should stand in the way of your knowledge. Just because their misperceptions of their own worth stood in the way of their knowledge, there's no reason why their misperceptions of your worth should stand in the way of your knowledge of yourself, your true identity. Which really means, okay, and it is still true that you believe that your parents did something to you. It is still true that you believe that your parents did something to you. Well, this belief that your parents did something to you is extremely dangerous to your perception. And which means that your belief that your parents did something to you is completely destructive of your knowledge.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but because I'm not a psychologist, I'm not in that field. You are. But doesn't psychology usually try to go back to your childhood, to your parenting, how
Yes.
and that
Yes.
attributing that as being a lot of the problems that you potentially are having.
Yes.
And the course is doing that same thing, but in a totally different manner, which is, hey, you were taking on all of these attributes that your parents were giving you as if they were true.
Yes.
Look how many kids, by the way, that you see as they're older that were like, I didn't want to be a whatever.
What my parents wanted me to, they wanted me to be a
It's
doctor
like
or a
it's
lawyer.
like their parents were living their dream through them or
Right.
something.
Yeah.
Or the continuation of it or whatever. But here we're learning it doesn't matter what your parents thought of you, didn't think of you. That was the wrong place from the very beginning of the error of the problem that we've been having in life is, and whether it's our parents or anybody else, it could be our uncles, it could be our brothers and sisters, it could be our boss at work, it could be anybody that we're giving stock into
Their image.
what your opinion is of my value. Did you make me? No. And even talking about pride of parents, because in our world of creation, the world that we made, not that God made, we're making our children supposedly, and therein comes the confusion. Did your mom really make you? Did she do all that? Did she do that? Did your dad do that? Well, or were you created by a living God? And if you were created by a living God, then any time from the beginning of our relationship with our parents growing up to everybody else outside of us, that we've been giving the mantle, the honor, the power, an impossible power to determine my worth, and you didn't have anything to do with my making. Were you there when, as Job was asked, when the heavens were laid out? Were you there when Greg was made? Then why are you entering my courtroom and making judgment on my son?
And why am I accepting your misperceptions of me and seeing myself as vulnerable to your misperceptions of me? Why am I seeing myself as vulnerable to being able to be hurt by your misperceptions of me when you didn't create me? You didn't establish my reality. And the important point here, and why it's in the title is the essential goal of therapy, is that just because your parents had a misperception of your worth and value, because their misperceptions were warped, and so they didn't know your truth, they couldn't see it, that doesn't mean that you cannot accept the truth about your identity from the one who created you, and now not suffer anymore from those misperceptions of your worth. You suffer from the misperceptions of other people's misperception of your worth, including your parents, only as long as you adopt them, only as long as you believe them, only as long as you side with those misperceptions, their misperceptions of your worth and value. And the moment that you remember, I am as God created me, my worth is established by God, now you cannot suffer the feeling of vulnerability or the ability to be hurt by anything that is not the truth about you. And that's the whole point. So, in other words, you're not the victim of your parents. Right. You're not. I know that therapy has in the past taught us, like you were saying, traditional therapy was, well, you're a victim of your parents. Now let's try to make the best of it.
Right.
But the Course in Miracles is saying that you are not the victim of anybody else's misperception of you. You're not even the victim of your own misperceptions of you. Meaning that in any moment you can say, oh, I am not going to give power of somebody's misperception over me to make me over. That's arrogant. I don't have that power. I don't have the power to give you the power to make me over in your own image. And that's what healing really is about. That's the essential goal of therapy, is by saying, is by not giving misperceptions of you power over you. The essential goal of therapy is where you stop seeing your value through the eyes of others who are your equals, and start seeing your value through the eyes of your author. And we heard here that your author only sees you as wholly loving and wholly lovable and wholly kind, and it never changes. And you could adopt that, just like you have been selecting and rejecting people's perceptions of you forever. So here, now you can not choose the misperceptions of your value, and you can select your author's perception of your value, and now only experience the results of that.
Yeah.
So that's the essential goal of real therapy.
Amen.
All right. So it says this belief that somebody has the power. This belief that your parents did something to you, or whoever, this belief that whoever did something to you is extremely dangerous to your perception. And this belief that your parents did something to you, or whoever, is wholly destructive of your knowledge. This is not only true of your attitudes toward your parents, but also of your misuse of your friends. So it's, your belief that you still have, that your friends did something to you, is also wholly destructive of your knowledge, which means your certainty of your identity as being wholly loving and wholly lovable, and that's it. It says you still think that you must respond to your friends' errors as if they were true. You still think that you have to respond to other people's misperceptions of your worth as if their misperceptions of your worth are true. It's like, oh, they're misperceiving my worth. Oh, I'm hurt, but I have to react. I have to change their mind. I have to prove to them that I'm really good enough. Okay? And it says, this is you reacting self-destructively. That's what that really is. You feeling like you have to respond to their misperceptions of your worth. Is you reacting self-destructively, which means you're giving them, those other folks who are misperceiving your worth, you're giving them approval for their misperceptions.
Well, and yeah, giving them approval by having an opinion.
By reacting.
The person that, again, didn't make you, didn't create you, doesn't know your value, but yet they taken on this power themselves to project their opinion of your value onto you. And then you're sitting there, and our job is to teach ourselves, as you said, not to react.
I don't have to respond.
I don't have to respond. As the Course says,
have to respond.
As the Course says itself, you know what my job is? I need do nothing.
Exactly.
That's my true job.
My worth is established by God.
Why would I need to defend myself against somebody that didn't have anything to do with my making?
That's right.
And to draw a line in the sand and to defend against somebody that didn't have anything to do with my making. They don't know my value, my worth, my purpose, my making, but yet they've taken that on, and rather than laugh it off, you know, when they try to, and then they get angry when you're not listening to them or agreeing with them, and then they get angrier and angrier. And our power is to stay within ourselves, and we don't have to react. We don't have to respond. We don't have to respond to ridiculousness.
Yeah. We don't have to.
Ridiculousness is ridiculousness. Why respond to it? It's just a distraction.
That's right.
It's just an annoyance. It's just a time waster. Why would I possibly do that when I can always check in with my Creator, my Source, and say, God, what's your opinion of this? Should I be doing this? Should I be worried about that? Should I be concerned about
their opinion?
This person in my family's opinion of me, or this co-worker's opinion of me, or that neighbor's opinion of me, or what's your thoughts, God? You're the one that, you know, brought me into life, into existence, into being. I think I should maybe check in and listen to what your opinion is.
Exactly. And any other, you feeling like you need to defend yourself or prove your worth to them who are not seeing your worth, that's you reacting self-destructively.
Yeah.
That's you giving them approval for their misperceptions of you.
Yeah. It's not, you know, so much what you're doing to them by even entertaining and exchanging with them, but you're acting totally self-destructive in that type of behavior.
Yes. Because you're giving their misperceptions of your worth, their image of you, power over you, which is what we heard earlier, arrogant. You don't have the strength and power to give them power to make you over in their own image of you. Yeah. Right? That's arrogant.
Any more than you do.
Any more than you do.
That's just pure arrogance.
It's pure arrogance. The truth is that no one has the right to change themselves according to different circumstances and different opinions. You don't have the right to change yourself according to different circumstances and people's different opinions of you. You don't have that right. You don't have that power. to change yourself from how your author, God, love, created you to be. Only your actions are capable of appropriate variation. So your reality is not subject to any variation or any change of any circumstances or anybody's opinion. Now your actions can be very changing, obviously, but your belief in yourself is a constant unless your belief in yourself rests on perceptual acuity rather than knowledge of what you are.
And that's what I was going to say earlier is you were saying you could have theirs or you can trade that by rejecting them and come back to
Yes.
And I wanted to say come back to knowledge.
Yes. Certainty.
Yeah, knowledge is what God's opinion is.
That's right.
On you.
Yes.
And your worth.
Yeah.
What your creator, what your source's opinion is. That's what knowledge is. That's where truth is. Or you can hang out and, as the Course calls it, the illusion, what's
That's
not
right.
true.
And have your perceptions of yourself, going to the heights of grandiosity and to the depths of despair, 5 times a minute.
Always changing.
Always changing. No stability.
No stability.
That is the opposite of emotional stability.
Right.
When your perception of yourself is subject to everybody's opinion of you, then you are going to always be up and down, up and down, up and down. You'll have no emotional stability.
Right.
And so that's why we want to learn to stop seeing ourselves through other people's eyes.
Could you imagine how screwed up God would be if God let God's own self be affected by what everybody's opinion of God was?
Yes.
God would be one screwed up entity.
And so mental health in this situation is learning how to only see yourself through one set of eyes, and that's the eyes of your creator, love, God.
Kindness.
And as long as you are willing to see yourself through the eyes of others, you will be mentally ill. You'll be mentally unstable. You'll be psychologically unstable.
It'd be like somebody, hooked on a drug that's self-destructive.
Yes.
But instead of it being meth, it's other people's opinion.
Exactly.
Including our own.
Exactly.
Including our own opinion of ourselves.
Because if you are still willing to see yourself through the eyes of others, that means in every single circumstance, that your identity and your value is subject to change.
Talk about striving and heavy laden.
Yeah.
Because you're always trying to make your equal creation outside of you pleased with you.
Yeah, you're
happy,
that's
approving
right. That's
of you.
right.
So you can try to stay elevated in that place of acceptance.
That's right. And if
I can accept myself because a lot of other people have accepted me because I'm behaving the way they want me to or whatever. And all that striving for what? To get a good approval, a good rating.
Of somebody who
What was that movie
doesn't even know their own value.
What was that movie at the end of we watched this show where at the end of the deal you gave a rating.
Oh,
and
yes.
you give
Upload.
Yeah, and
Upload.
they would just like use their palm.
Yes.
The screen comes up and they would rate this,
after they would have a date.
Yeah, a date or whatever.
Then they would be like, "Are you going to give me 5 stars? You going to give me 5 stars?"
Because they've got to keep the
And they're
rating.
like, "No,
high.
I'm going to
Nobody
give you
else
3.5
wants
stars."
to go out with them.
Right, exactly. It's like, oh,
Come
come
They have too many
on.
poor reviews.
Exactly.
And that's how we are. We're like, oh man, I got so many poor reviews out there right now.
Exactly.
Because I'm dependent on
Other
everybody
people's
rating
opinions.
me.
Other people's opinions.
Giving me their 5 stars or their 1 star. And none of them created this star.
And so in this case, good mental health is having a solid sense of your own true worth and value as established by your creator that doesn't change with different circumstance and different people's opinions of you. That's what really good mental health really means in this sense.
That's when you've been healed.
That's right. Exactly. That's good mental health. That's when you've been healed.
Right.
So it says in the last paragraph, I don't know what she wants. I know. Remember, it's class time stuff. Okay. It is your duty to establish beyond doubt that you are totally unwilling to side with, which means identify with, anyone's misperceptions of you, including your own. That's your duty. Your one duty is what? Your one duty is to establish beyond doubt that you are totally unwilling to side with or to identify with anyone's misperceptions of your worth and value, including your own. That's your duty relative to your own mental health and peace of mind. So it's like my own duty is to decide that I am not going to side with or identify with anyone's misperceptions of my worth and value, including my own.
That's my duty.
That's my duty. So if somebody does not see my worth and value, they don't see me as loving and lovable, my duty is not to be like, oh my God, I can't believe you. What's wrong with you? Defend, or try to change their mind, try to prove them wrong, or to feel depressed. My duty is to not side with or identify with anyone's misperceptions of my worth and value, including my own. That's my duty.
I mean, that's strong language.
That's really strong language.
Our duty is to establish beyond doubt.
Mm-hmm.
To establish beyond doubt that I am unwilling
Totally.
to side
Mm-hmm.
with yours,
Mm-hmm.
mom, dad, uncle,
Mm-hmm.
aunt, sister, brother, friends at work,
Mm-hmm.
anyone's misperceptions of me,
Mm-hmm.
including my own.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And boy, that's the world we live in now, is
Mm-hmm.
seeking for who I am by those who did not make me.
Exactly.
How insane is that outside of myself?
Truly.
Rather than seeking approval from the one who did make me.
Mm-hmm.
And what say you of me?
Right.
And instead of constantly like beggars out there begging for alms from one another.
From every circumstance, every relationship, every encounter. Do you like me? Am I good enough? Am I valuable through your eyes? And do you like me? Am I good enough? And then basing your experience of yourself, your judgments on their opinion.
Yes.
They who did not make you, they don't even know themselves. They don't even like themselves, but you're going to base your value on their misperception of you, their opinion of you.
And once you do, you're equally doing what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They're taking on the arrogant role
Mm-hmm.
of dictating somebody that they did not make, they did not create, they did not breathe the breath of life into this person, but yet they're going to lord over them and give them the measurement of their value.
Yeah.
That's a particular kind of arrogance.
Yes.
Well, it's as equally a particular kind of arrogance when I react to that.
That's right. Narcissism.
I can only react to it when I'm like, oh, what am I doing to, how should I make this right? Seeking, like a beggar, more value from this person, or an opinion from this person, which is not the judge of anything, of themselves, let alone me.
That's right.
And so both parties are being equally arrogant in a particular kind of way. And so what a great and powerful lesson.
Really
you guys have no idea, because Anna and I, seriously, we always find it unusual that seemingly that the Course can be so spot on. This is exactly something we personally have been going through in our life, you know, and it speaks a lot of depth to some situations we've both been involved in. So I really have loved these three classes we've done on this. And
all right, well, there you go. Thank you for joining. If you would like to support these ideas and going out into the world and helping other people to have a real and certain sense of worth and value that cannot change according to circumstances, then like, share, and subscribe. And that helps, that tells the algorithm that this class is important, and so it pushes it out to more viewers. So thank you so much for taking the time to join this healing circle and to help strengthen these ideas for the world.
And that's not Chloe growling or barking, it's just her. It's dog amen.
Yes, that's a dog amen.
That's a dog amen.
All right.
Thanks for that.
All right.
Chloe.
Thanks for that
Thanks
canine
for that.
amen.
Canine amen.
We love you guys. Thank you so much for joining. Appreciate you all so much. And all of my classes and mine and Greg's classes are listed in the body of this video. Appreciate you all so much.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Bye-bye.
This is how we do it.
That's right.